Okay. Pnawn da. Croeso I bawb. Good afternoon. A warm welcome to everyone for this planning committee meeting being held on the 8th of September 2021. I will just hand over for the declarations of interest, and then we'll go into all the other business for the day. So I'll just hand over to our legal officer, Tim Dillon.
Diolch. Pnawn da, members. Good afternoon, members. Members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now, or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or indeed a prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it is a personal interest or indeed a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any votes. If a personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available from the committee support staff here today. Diolch. Thank you.
Okay, so declarations of interest are second on the agenda. So just first on the agenda is apologies. So if you do know of any apologies, if you could just unmute and say now, please.
Peter Evans, please, Chair.
Thank you. Got that. So Councillor Peter Evans, yep.
Councillor Rhys Thomas, Cynghorydd Rhys Thomas fel aelod lleol.
Oh, okay. Yeah, diolch yn fawr. Okay, wonderful. So we'll move on to agenda item 2, which is declarations of interest. And I think there are a couple of us that have those. So again, if you want to unmute and say if you have a declaration of interest.
Chair, I do. Hugh Hilda, Chair.
Okay.
I declare a personal interest in the Pendorlan. I know both parties.
Okay, I think as you're not a voting member, I don't think you have to fill in a slip, but thanks for letting us know. Always useful. Diolch yn fawr. I'll declare a personal interest in the one agenda item number 5. Purely because I haven't for a few years, but I used to play cricket for Denby Cricket Club, and that is part of the application. So it's a personal interest, but nothing more than that. So I will declare that for agenda item 5. Anyone else?
Chairman. Chair.
Hi, yeah, Hugh Evans, leader.
Yeah, I'd like to declare a personal interest, please, in the Denby Hospital, and also a personal interest in Queen's as well, please.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you.
A finne.
Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
Ie, diolch yn fawr. Ymddiriadau bod fi newydd ymuno. O'n i methu dod i mewn efo'r laptop. Dwi efo peiriant fy hun ar hyn o bryd. Dwi eisiau dasgan diddordeb mewn 2 eitem os gwelwch yn dda. Dwi'n yn cofio'r rhifau, dwi'n disgwyl gweld yr agenda dwi'n fyny ar y iPad bach o munud. Ond y cais ar gyfer Pendorlan, dwi'n dasgan diddordeb gyda'r rhagfarn achos
Emrys, you're on mute. No. Okay, your audio's cut off, Emrys. I know that you have a personal and prejudicial interest in agenda item 6, so that is fine. We've got that one. You've got another one, which we will come back to later. Oh, yeah, we got you.
Yeah, dwi'n gwybod beth ddigwyddodd.
Okay, go on, Emrys, go.
Yeah, okay. Dwi'n dasgan diddordeb gyda'r rhagfarn efo'r cais Pendorlan. Mae'r tŷ hwnnw yn cefnu a fy nghartrefi ac mae'r datblygiad yn effeithio ar yn eiddo ni hefyd, felly mae hwnna gyda rhagfawr. Ac mae'r Ysbyty Gogledd Cymru dim ond bod y diddordeb personol gan fod y merch yn un o ffrindiau pennaf a theulu sydd yn gwneud y cais cynllunio.
Yeah. Okay, diolch yn fawr. I've got a few more hands up. I've got Councillor Joan Butterfield.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare a personal interest on the Queen's Market site.
Okay, can you just tell us as a member of the committee, you do need to just tell us the nature of your
I'm on the Queen's board.
Thank you. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Chair. I have an interest in number 10, the former Sun Centre site, as a Director of Denbighshire Leisure.
Thank you. Is that just a personal interest?
Just a personal interest, yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Thomas.
Yeah, not a personal interest. We've just finished another meeting actually, and Ron Jones is having trouble on his iPad, so we're both on the same laptop at the moment, Joe.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So right, that's not a problem at all.
Sorry, Chair, I forgot. I need to declare interest as a Director of Denbighshire Leisure as well. Peter's just reminding me.
That's fine. You're sorted because you're not a voting member. So
okay, cool.
So you're okay. Okay. Right. Agenda item number 3. Urgent matters as agreed by the chair. Don't have any this month. So that's that. Right. Agenda item number 4. We're moving on to pages 9 to 16 of the agenda, which is the minutes. Okay, to confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 14th of July, 2021. So I'll just go through the pages, and as we always do in planning, if there is an issue with any of the items, then just unmute and say as we go through the pages, okay? So page 9 was the urgent matter about the Elwes Solar. Pages 10 and 11 were the Nook in Bryn Goodman Ruthin. Page 12 was an application in Redland. Page 13, application in RHYL. And that was on page 14 as well. Page 15 was applications 8 and 9. And then page 16 was still application number 9. So if nobody has any comments about that, could somebody just propose those, please? So proposed by Councillor Mark Young, seconded by Councillor Christine Marston, as a correct and accurate copy record. So unless anyone has any objections, then we'll take that as given. So if I'll just give you a few seconds now, and if anyone wants to disagree with those minutes, then unmute and speak now. Okay, fantastic. So just direct you now to the blue sheets that came through yesterday evening. You will have had an email from Judith Williams. It will have said the late reps. So that will obviously have the running order of the day. Yeah. As you can see, the running order of the day is slightly different. And we have got quite a full agenda today. So again, just like to ask you to remember, members, you know, when you do speak, to try to only speak on one occasion and for a maximum of 5 minutes. And obviously to not repeat anything. I don't want to stifle any debates, but we obviously want just to make sure that the later items, when we're getting a bit tireder, get the full treatment they deserve as well, and that we don't rush through anything because we've spent ages on items that we could have spent less time on. Okay. So the first item that we're going to go into is item number 6, okay, which is on page 111 of our reports. And the ward is Ruthin. The ward members are Councillors Bobby Feely, Councillor Emily Swin and Councillor Hugh Hilditch Roberts. The application number is 02/2021/0327/PF. The proposal is the erection of extensions and alterations to dwelling, including construction of retaining walls, block wall and excavation works to form a level front parking area, including removal of front hedge, and it's partly retrospective. The location is Pendorlan, Llanfair Road, Rhuthun. And as you will see, we do have speakers on this item.
Can I come in, Chair, please?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Am I going to be taken off the meeting virtually, or do I need to do it physically myself?
RHODFA'R will put you off into a waiting room now. Okay. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr.
Sorry, Emrys, so we should have sorted that out. It was my fault. Okay, so we have public speakers. The officer recommendation is to grant. We have a public speaker against and a public speaker for. And as usual, the public speaker against goes first. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Alan Jones. You will have 3 minutes to address the committee. So once you've started speaking, we will time the 3 minutes and then you will need to stop, okay? Unless there's any technical issues. Okay, so whenever you're ready, you can address the committee.
Pnawn, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address the planning committee. We live at Bryn Celyn, the bungalow next door to Pendorlan. We continue to have 3 main concerns with regards to the planning application, which are as follows. Number 1, loss of light and overshadowing. The proposed 2-storey site very close to our boundary and property. The plans clearly shows how the extension will tower over our bungalow, causing overshadowing and loss of light to our main bedroom window. This is very concerning as it's the only source of natural light to that bedroom. Number 2, the extension is projecting out at the front. The same 2-storey extension is proposed to come out 1.7 metres further than the existing property. The council's planning guidance confirms that such extension should not normally project excessively in front of the existing building unless they repeat existing patterns of development. The new first floor window in this extension will undoubtedly overlook the majority of our main private garden. And we are concerned that the proposed 2-storey extension can only have an overbearing effect on our property and main private garden area. Number 3 is loss of privacy. As the 2-storey extension comes so close to our boundary, it will significantly affect our privacy going forward if approved. We cannot agree with the section of the report which states that the front elevation window of the 2-storey extension would not have an unacceptable impact on our amenity in our garden area. In the 14 years we have lived here, we have never felt overlooked in our garden, as the nearest first floor window of a habitable room at the front of Pendorlan is at least 14 metres away from our boundary. It has therefore never been an issue until now. The front of the extension comes out much further than the existing property and will be in our line of sight from our back door, patio and main garden area. The new first floor window will be approximately 4 metres from our boundary and can only result in the loss of privacy to our garden, which is used extensively by our family. We therefore feel strongly that the aspect of the report, that aspect of the report is incorrect and this issue should be addressed again. With the above in mind, these are the 2 things that would be acceptable to us. Moving the 2-storey extension an additional 2 metres further away from the boundary between our property and next door. This would lessen the overbearing effect that the 2-storey extension would have on our bungalow and also probably alleviate the need for any party wall agreements between ourselves and next door going forward. Move the front of the 2-storey extension back to be flush with the front of the existing building, 1.7 metres as previously mentioned. This would ensure that our privacy, especially in our main garden, is kept as much as possible. The design of the front elevation window in the extension also needs to be addressed to prevent our privacy from being lost. We feel very strongly that the revised plan should not be approved as they stand, as doing so will cause harm and will therefore be to the detriment of our property. Diolch am wrando. Thank you for listening.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you. Okay, we have a public speaker for, Catrin Thomas. So whenever you're ready, you can start to speak and address the committee.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Fy mod yn siaradwr Cymraeg, dwi'n siarad yn Saesneg heddiw. Even though I'm a Welsh language speaker, I wish to conduct in English today. Me and my husband Arfon, both born and bred in Rhuthun, along with our 2 young children, we purchased the property earlier this year as we wanted to stay local to Rhuthun town and create a spacious family home to grow that's in close proximity of my business and the boys' local school. After the recent sale of our old house, we are living between families and out of a caravan while we develop Pendorlan. I personally visited our neighbours, Bryn Celyn, with our proposed plans before our application went in. We were told by them there is no issue. I was terribly saddened to find such an objection online. We believe we've done everything we can to work with our neighbours, and now that it's been escalated to committee, the whole ordeal has only brought great stress and upset to us as a family. Our plan to develop the house is into a more energy efficient, spacious home. Our plan to develop the house into a more energy efficient, spacious home for our growing family will improve the street scene and bring curb appeal to Llanmai Road, as other developers have recently done. We have worked closely with the planning officer who is backing our application, and have also worked to alter our original plans with the objecting neighbours with no avail. The living accommodation and layout of the existing house is very dated and doesn't offer open plan living as modern families wish to have these days. The plot layout is also back to front, with parking at the rear and a garden at the front near the very busy main road, which isn't suitable for families with young children like us. Every property on Llanmai Road, except for us and one other, have front driveways and rear gardens. Our aim is to create a front driveway with level parking and a secure private rear garden for our children to play. The planning officer has asked us to amend our first plans following concerns by the occupiers of Bryn Celyn. We work closely with our architect to reduce the impact on the neighbouring bungalow by reducing the roof height and creating a dormer-style two-storey extension. We also altered other factors to try and lessen any impact on Bryn Celyn. The officer agreed we had done as much as we could and that she was happy with the revised plans as it was in line with planning guidelines. As for the claim of overdevelopment, you can see from the aerial view map of Pendorlan, it's the last house in the row and is by far one of the largest plots on the road. It would easily accommodate 2 large detached 4-bedroom houses, as has been done by developments at Crafnant and Havandeg lower down Llanmai Road. Only 18% of our plot will be utilised by the proposed extension. As for our rear single-storey extension, permitted development allow rear single storeys and 2-storey extensions, which would be considerably higher than the roof lantern we have in our proposal. We don't believe the reasons they have for objecting are valid, considering what we will be able to build with permitted development. As we have worked with our neighbours and the planning officer,
you have to stop, sorry.
We hope you will agree the recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Deal. Thank you. Okay. There was a site visit for this last Friday. I don't know if Vice Chair wants to come in at this point, who was there.
Thank you, Chair.
Along with the local members, but the local members I know are going to come in a moment. So if the Vice Chair, if you just want to come in on the site visit, that'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was good to meet in Pendorlan, just to give an appreciation of the sort of topography of the ground. What perhaps you don't appreciate from the pictures is that it is quite a steep driveway to the back of the house, and there is quite a difference in height between the sort of main Wrexham Road and the sort of back garden. So clearly there has been a lot of earthworks at the front of the house to try and create this parking space. And it's good to see the relationship between obviously Pendorlan and the sort of immediate neighbours, sort of all around really, not just the sort of bungalow, but at the back of the house and alongside. So yes, clearly it's a dwelling within the curtilage of a town, and there are going to be close neighbours. So yeah, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Scott, you were also on the site visit. Do you want to, just on the site visit, you can come in, and then if you want to come in later on other things, that's fine.
No, I'll come in on the site visit if that's okay, Chair.
Yep.
Yeah, I was.
BT, you're going to need to turn your video off. It's nothing against you, but we can't hear you very well. There you go.
Off now. Yeah, I did go on the site visit. The property does look rather large and undaunting the way it is, because it's been gutted at the moment, but looking at the plans and what was there, there was no windows to the side that overlooked the bungalow. The garage will be knocked down that's there on that side, and the ground level lowered, so it won't be as tall as it was going to be. There'll be a nice garden at the rear, new parking area at the front, and a single-story building to the rear as well. I could actually see, from my point of view, no reasons why the property shouldn't be built as per the planning application, and I would propose that the application is granted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to bring in the local members before we have any other conversation about that. So Councillor Bobby Feely, do you want to come in first, and then I'll bring in Councillor Hugh Eldridge-Roberts?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm going to turn off my video just in case. Can I just say, on a personal note, it's disappointing when people fall out over house extensions and so on, and my heart goes out to both families, because, you know, it's a very difficult situation when one doesn't like what the other one is doing. I do pass this house almost every day of my life, and I had noticed that it had been on the market because there was a for sale sign outside for about 2 or 3 years, until this year when I noticed it had finally sold. As the work began to extend and improve the house to suit the new owner's requirements, I think I can say I was quite incredulous at the speed and amount of excavations which ensued. The previous front garden was demolished before my eyes. The depth of excavation work was pretty phenomenal. The private bungalow next door was now visible and exposed, whereas before it would not have been noticed from the road. The owners of the bungalow next door, along with the 3 local members, felt that this application should be called in and brought to the committee for discussion before a decision. And I am very grateful to the members of the planning committee and the planning officer for taking the time to come and see the site for themselves. My fellow councillors Emrys Wynne and Hugh Hilditch have declared an interest. Emrys because his own property is so close in proximity to the Garden of Pendorlan, and Hugh because of his friendship with both property owners. Undoubtedly, these extensions will make Pendorlan into a pretty towering structure over this modest bungalow, Bryn Celyn, which is next door. You can see from the plans before you today that the house will be virtually doubled in size, bringing a double-storey extension within a few feet of the boundary of Bryn Celyn, overlooking and overpowering what is a very modest property next door, with a further extension going along the back of the property. Retrospectively, the building control officer concluded that most of the excavation work was okay, and I'm using his words, but not mine. They're the words in the planning application. But there is one section of the wall that will need a retaining structure, as they have excavated too close. This structure will need to be designed by a suitably qualified engineer and constructed to ensure the stability of the boundary wall. We have all seen the effects of climate change, with storms and driving rain venting havoc on buildings and undermining foundations, causing some to collapse. It is fairly obvious the stability of at least part of the boundary wall between Pendorlan and Bryn Celyn has been destabilised by the extent and depth of excavations. I would add that these somewhat overzealous excavations took place without any planning in place. Furthermore, extensive levelling in places has gone very close to the boundary, exposing tree roots from the tree located in the neighbour's garden. But I do gather that since then, the tree expert has said this is not a problem. This has been a very stressful and upsetting time for both Alan and Caris, and I'm sure for the Thomases as well. But the neighbours have resided peacefully and happily at Brynkellin for some 14 years. And I think it's true to say if this had been a more modest extension, there would have been no problems or objections. But the extent of the building works next door have been hard to bear. It is appreciated that the extension will take place, but can we please find a way to compromise on the main objections highlighted by Alan in his summary, with the loss of light and overshadowing the bedroom and the garden, the extension projecting out at the front further than currently, and the loss of privacy with the two-storey extension being too close to the boundary. Also, I would like to ensure and have reassurance from the planning officers that the dangerously deep and close excavation work needs to be done first and foremost before anything else. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hugh Hilditch Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as I said, because I've known both parties and I've worked quite closely with both parties to try and get a solution on this. It is unfortunate that we're in this situation, and I think that the information is in front of the committee, and I think you have to take that decision today. And I don't really have. I'm not supporting either application. I am keeping neutral on this. Because I don't want to get into a dogfight. So that's all from me. Makes a change, I know, but that's all from me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Pop yourself on mute and listen away. Okay, members of the committee, obviously, just going back to what Peter Scott said. Peter, do you want to just come back in, because you did mention that you were happy to propose some things. So do you want to come in and just do that? I didn't want to then get that seconded or anything before the local members had come in, but if you want to just reiterate.
Yes, as I said, Chair, I on the site visit, I couldn't see anything until I think there's some conditions on the property which are already there, aren't they? I can't honestly remember, and I can't get on my iPad to find out where they are, Chair. I'm very sorry, but I was happy to propose the development as recommended by the planning officers.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
Just before then, Chair, if I may, but Peter, would you take on board Councillor Feely's comments about the progress of work?
Yeah, certainly, Councillor Young. Yes, anything that helps with health and safety is fine. Yeah, I'm happy. I wish I'd have heard this on the site visit on last Friday, but never mind. There we go. Thank you.
So, Chair and officers, can we include the feedback from Councillor Feely, if possible, please?
Yeah.
It would be good, Mark, if I could get an answer for the officers on some of the questions that arose.
That's fine. I'm just going by what I'm doing at the moment, and I need a seconder first, and then we can move on. That the seconder doesn't then close the debate. We can then start having, so Councillor Christine Marston has seconded it. We can have a big long debate on it now. That's not a problem at all. We're just getting to the point where we needed that. Obviously, what I can see, I've got my iPad open as well. I can see all your hands up, so you can use the hands up tool. That is not a problem, and I can see it. It comes up on the top, so that's the best thing to do for if you do want to speak for today's meeting, please. Do officers want to come back in on the points that Councillor Feely did raise?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think really focusing on the retaining wall, it's sort of a matter of a fact that this is something that's controlled by building control, and that ultimately the responsibility does lie with the developer. But if there is to be further development in that area that may have a visual appearance, we could consider putting a condition on saying details of the retaining walls to be submitted, agreed and implemented. And we could establish a time frame at that point if you wish. So that is an option open to you. I think the other issues that Councillor Feely referred to sort of relate to how the building or the proposed extension would impact upon the neighbouring property in terms of its proximity to the bungalow. Well, I think as officers, we'd just like to point out that, yes, it's going up in height, but it's also moving slightly further away from the boundary than the existing single-storey garage. In terms of loss of privacy, again, a lot of the guidance that we have sort of shows that it's a first floor window looking towards habitable room windows, such as another bedroom or a lounge or a kitchen. In this instance, the first floor window at the front elevation, well, that overlooks the rear garden of the neighbouring bungalow. There's nothing in our guidance that says that that's unacceptable. I mean, I think you only have to look around any sort of urban area, and every garden pretty much has got someone's first floor window overlooking their garden. So it's not that unreasonable. But I think the issue we have here is one of sympathy with the neighbour. He's never had that experience in that property to date. So that's obviously where, you know, concerns coming from. But taking a step away from that, purely from a planning view, having a first floor bedroom window overlooking a garden, that's a relatively normal situation to occur. So officers conclude that there isn't an unacceptable impact. Yes, there's an impact, but it's not unacceptable. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I haven't got any other, oh yeah, Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Mute.
If you speak in
myself off mute, yeah, and I'll put my camera off. Just going back on what Bobby said and what Paul said then. On sub-applications, we can actually stipulate that some parts of the work are carried out in the beginning of development rather than at the end of development. And, you know, to maybe try and keep neighbourly relationship as best as possible, would it be possible to maybe ask that the boundary wall work is done at the earlier stage of the development rather than the last bit of the development, and then everybody would know where they are with it then? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, yeah, do officers want to, I think that is okay. I just need to, do we need to do that in a condition, or?
I think it'd be best to tidy up that area with a condition that we could say details of boundary treatments and retaining walls to be further supplied and implemented. We can establish that that's before work commences on the extension or words to that effect. I could agree that with the local members potentially.
Okay, I'm just going to check with the proposer. Peter, are you happy with that?
Yeah, happy with that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I've got a few other speakers. Councillor, I'll bring in the local member just because I know you were having your questions answered. So if you have something to raise on that, Councillor Bobby Feely.
Well, yes, thanks. I was going to raise what Mervyn raised in terms of doing that work first, and I'm thank you that you are going to do that. I'm not sure, Paul Griffin, that is, that you addressed the boundary situation with it being so close, as you can see from the photographs. Would it not be at all possible to move that slightly in, in the way that Alan Jones explained when he gave his piece? I thought that sounded quite reasonable and wouldn't really detract from the size of the house that's going there. It wouldn't detract, and it would give a wider space pathway through from there for them as well, from front to back. Would that not be possible to include? I know this is a stage, but, you know, in the interests of harmony and in the interests of, you know, both couples, you know, I think that should be regarded as a possibility. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I'll bring in Paul, but I don't think we can do that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Feely, you know, I think the issue here is what's in front of us acceptable or not? You know, if we had an appellant, an applicant that was saying, yeah, fine, I'll do it, they would do it. The reality is they've got put a scheme in that they want. Officers have assessed that and said, well, there's no reason for us to ask for that to be amended in planning terms. You know, that proximity, if it was too close and we felt it was harmful to the amenity of the neighbouring property, clearly we'd either be refusing or asking for that amendment. But I don't think at this point we should be considering changing the design or waiting. I don't think it's really possible at this point. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. Councillor Anne Davis. You're on mute, Anne.
Okay. Because of the close proximity to the neighbouring property, could any of the windows be frosted glass? Could that be a condition that's been added?
Thank you, Councillor Davis. If you have a look at the plans, we've only got one window proposed to the side elevation of the entirety of the extensions, and that's a ground floor window, and it's marked as being obscure glaze. So that would also, not only would it be obscure glaze, but it would be screened from the neighbouring property, from the bungalow, by the boundary treatment, which is at present a 2-metre fence. So we've also added a condition to the report that says no additional windows other than those shown, no additional windows to those shown shall be inserted at any time. Hopefully that helps. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I haven't got any other speakers. Obviously, if you didn't want to vote for this, you would need to sort of probably make yourselves known so we would know what reasons you were thinking of refusing it on. And we have had a proposer to grant, we've had a seconder, and we've had a condition added to that, which the proposer and seconder are happy with. An alteration to the motion, yep. So we will now. Oh, Councillor Paul Penlington, you've got your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Just turned up rather late, so apologies for that, but I will abstain on this item because I've missed most of the debate for that reason. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Penlington. Just remember, if you do have any personal or prejudicial interests in any of the other items, just to make us aware as soon as possible. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this one. And it will be in alphabetical order. So for this one, it is, if you vote to grant, it will be granting in accordance with officer recommendation, plus the condition. You can then obviously vote against that, and you can also abstain from the voting. Okay, so we'll start off, and that is with Councillor Joan Butterfield.
I'm in favour of grant.
To grant. Yeah, that's to grant. Thank you. Councillor Ellie Chan.
To grant.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Davis.
For.
Thank you, Anne. For Councillor Alan Hughes.
Yeah, grant, forward. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Jones.
Grant.
Oof, that sounded very you got some thing on the background there, some background noise. Sounded like it was coming down from the heavens. Okay, Councillor Tina Jones.
To grant.
Cynghorydd Smith Kensler.
Abtal.
Diolch. Councillor Christine Marston.
To grant.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
Grant.
Councillor Bob Murray.
Grant.
Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Grant.
Councillor Paul Penlington is going to abstain. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
Grant.
Councillor Peter Scott.
Grant.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
Grant.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Councillor Julian Thompson Hill did give his apologies a couple of days ago. I forgot to mention that at the start. And Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn is obviously absent. Councillor Joe Welch, myself, Grant, and Councillor Mark Young.
Grant.
Thank you. Okay, we'll just add all that up. Okay, so that was votes to grant was 15. There was no votes against, but there were 2 votes to abstain. So that was a total number of 17 votes. Therefore, that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation with the additional amendment to it. Okay, so we are going to move on to, again, we're going in the order of the public speaker items. So this is agenda item 8. We're moving on to now, which is page 171 of our reports.
Is Emrys back in, Chair?
Yeah, Rhodri's on the ball more than me.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just wait for Emrys to come back in. Is he in? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is agenda item number 8. on page 171 of our reports, the ward is RHYL South East. The ward members are Councillors Brian Blakely, Councillor Brian Jones, Councillor Cheryl Williams. The application number is 45/2020/0844/PF. The proposal is the alteration and adaptation of existing nursing home to include extension of 2 additional bedrooms on the first floor, 2 fire escape stair enclosures and entrance canopy. The location is Sandy Lodge, 83 DYSERTH Road, RHYL, LL18 4DT. And I'll just bring in Councillor Brian Jones.
Well, thank you, Chair. Hopefully I don't sound like I'm speaking from heaven still.
No, you still do, actually.
Do I?
It's fine. We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. It's fine.
Right, I'll be very brief, very brief. I would like to propose a deferral yet again on this application. Members will be aware we deferred it at the last planning meeting in respect of holding a site visit. That site visit hasn't taken place, and so my deferral proposal today is that the site visit does take place, and that is the reason for proposing this deferral.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Ann Davis is seconding that.
I'm
Okay.
happy to second that on the basis that we do need another site meeting, please.
Yep, that's fine. We will go to the vote on it. As always, we don't have a discussion on a deferral. Okay, you've been the reasons have been outlined by the councillor, and that's all we need. There's not going to be any discussion on the merits of the application or why it's been deferred more than once or anything like that. Okay, so we will go to the vote on this.
Yes.
For this one,
Excuse me, Chair. Can I have a response from the officers, please, on my proposal to defer?
yeah, no problem. I'll bring in Paul.
Let's have the vote.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, in relation to Councillor Jones's proposal to defer, obviously the chair has explained we do now have to go to the vote on that. So I'm perfectly happy for the item to go to the vote, and we'll see where we go from there. Obviously, if the vote to defer is approved, then we will arrange the site visit as Councillor Jones has requested. If it isn't, then we obviously go into the debate for the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so again, for this one, it's going to be 4 if you want to go for the deferral, okay? Because that's the proposal that we have had. So 4 will be for deferral, against will be against deferral, and abstain is you do not want to take part in this vote. So just make that really, really clear. So 4 is for the deferral, not to be heard today, to have the site visit, and against is obviously to hear the case today. Okay, so Councillor Joan Butterfield. Hi, Joan, I didn't hear that, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, I'm against.
Against, okay. Councillor Ellie Chard.
Against.
Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Councillor Alan Hughes.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Sori, dwi am ymateb, nes i'n clywed trafodaeth I gyd.
It's just on a deferral, Gwyneth.
Yeah. So but I didn't, I had people coming to the door, so I didn't, it wasn't.
Matt else, you're abstaining, okay?
Yeah.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
Against.
Councillor Mervyn Perry.
Against.
Councillor Paul Pennington.
Against.
Councillor Pete Prendergast.
Against.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Cynghorydd no, it's Councillor Joe Welch. I am against. Councillor Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn. You're on mute, Emily.
Yn erbyn.
And Councillor Mark Young.
Against.
Okay, we have okay, we have for deferral, we have 8 votes. Against deferral, we have 9 votes. And we have 1 abstain. Therefore, that deferral has not been granted. And therefore, the application will be heard today. So we have public speakers on this. The officer recommendation is to grant. We have public speakers against and public speakers for. The public speaker against is Tim Carty. So I think we are going to have somebody who's going to read out his objection as he could not be present here today. So we'll just wait a moment. There obviously is a little bit of information on the blue sheets. Okay. So it's obviously got the information regarding the site visit, which obviously wasn't discussed at the last meeting because it was deferred. So you can just be having a little look through that as we just get set. Okay. So Paul Mead is going to read out the comments from Tim Carty, who is against the application.
Diolch. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is the speech of Tim Carty, who is proposing an objection to the development, and I will begin his speech now. The detailed application references the proposed use of the facility as a private psychiatric hospital, and the MediRose website talks of accepting referrals from those detained under the Mental Health Act and those subject to hospitalisation orders. Those opposed to the application have been accused of having an issue with mental health provision. The opposite is true. It is exactly because we care about the appropriate provision for those with mental health issues that we oppose this location. The applicant is unable to specify that the unit would be classified as secure, as that would suggest a change of use application. So there is no guarantee that the facility would be secure. The next section is entitled Overdevelopment. The site has been developed twice previously, expanding the building footprint and reducing the open spaces on the site, most of which will now be parking spaces. The building failed as a care home due to its unsuitability. Would you choose to send a loved one there? If not, why is it appropriate for those with mental health challenges? Do they not deserve better? The building is old, gloomy, and unsuitable as a place of respite and rehabilitation. The location is in the middle of a residential area with no green space to aid recuperation. Let's use the example of prisons. Old buildings are not now deemed appropriate, and modern facilities are the way forward. Why should we accept less for those with mental health issues? The next section is entitled Traffic. The traffic survey relates to the previous use when the building was operating as a care home. This was 4 years ago, prior to the Aberkinsey development, which has increased traffic on the DYSERTH Road. This has put pressure on the junctions meeting DYSERTH Road at Penamice Avenue, the Parkview Estate, Lonastrad and Hale Llys. A further 100+ units are planned in the short term, exacerbating the problem. Speed on that road has increased with the traffic flow. In addition, the proposed plan has dedicated parking spaces, but should they not prove enough, the temptation will be to park on the main road, and examples of that are when parents pick up from the nursery next door. I believe this was witnessed on the recent site visit. Next section is entitled Need. Work is beginning shortly on a 66-bed facility less than a mile away. The MediRose website states it is intended to provide specialist mental health services to enable local people to access high-quality care as close to their families and social networks as possible. Should there not be a need for local referrals, are we expecting RHYL to become a dumping ground for referral patients from outside the region? A Freedom of Information request reveals that in the period 2018 to 2021, the local NHS Trust referred 90 patients in total to facilities outside of the area due to a lack of capacity, with the average stay of less than 6 months. It points to over-provision once the larger building on Brighton Road is completed.
The next section is entitled Nuisance. The proposed development of Sandy Lodge would negatively impact the residents to the rear of the property, plus provide viewing into the rear of the day nursery alongside. Previous additions to the building have ensured that any further development will encroach on the light and open aspect, particularly to those residents of Cae Griffith. Can I urge the members of the Planning Committee to reflect on the issues above, along with the existence of a 600-strong Facebook group in opposition to the planned development and a 300 signature petition lodged at change.org, and vote to refuse the application.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a public speaker 4 as well. So John Horden. So Mr. Horden, when you are ready, you will have 3 minutes to address the committee. Okay, so I think Paul's going to read out this one as well.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I will. This is from a Mr. John Horden, who's the agent for the applicant on this planning application. This is obviously in support of the proposal, and I'll begin the speech now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am John Horden from JPH Architects, and I'm the project architect for the application. As you will see from the case officer's report, the application is for simple alterations and adaptations and a 2-bedroom extension to the existing main nursing home building. I believe that the proposals do not have any objections or planning concerns in terms of density, scale or form, and that the proposals are in keeping with the ethos of the building and its function. Please also note that the case officer is moving for approval of the application. We are mindful that there has been some public concerns regarding the application on the grounds of function and use of the building. Currently, the building is an existing nursing home and is classified as C2 purpose group. There is no intention of operating outside of this use. I want to reiterate that the purpose group of the nursing home future use is C2, and as an independent hospital, it will fall absolutely within C2 use. Use C2A is for a secure unit, which this building categorically is not. Furthermore, the use and purpose group of this facility is not a material consideration for this application. You are simply determining an application for a 2-bedroom extension, enclosures for 2 fire escape staircases and porch to the principal entrance to the home. I therefore urge you to approve this application presented before you. If the application does not receive full planning approval at this meeting, the client will be making an appeal and will be applying for costs. Many thanks, John P. Horden. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this was subject to a site visit in July. So anyone, if anyone, not the local members, but anyone who was on the site visit, if they wanted to comment purely on the site visit, don't really want any recommendations now or any going into any speech about your opinions on it, just about the site visit. I've got Councillor Ellie Chard. Do you want to speak about the site visit? Unmute, Ellie.
For everybody's information, I was very pleased going around the grounds, which I had been before, because over the last 30 years, I've delivered letters and things to the nursing home. And I just felt that it was going to be a good alteration to and
You're breaking up a bit, Ellie.
I was very pleased to represent the group and seeing the proposed alterations, because I did walk around circumference of the grounds and the back garden, which was beautiful. And yeah, I think it was a safe place to have this alteration. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Penlington, you were at the site visit as well, if you want to.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll agree with Ellie, really. We had a good walk around, we had a look at everything. We looked at what will actually be done to the building. And a building this size is actually a fairly minor alteration. And in fact, there's 2 large fire escapes that exist already, which are going to be boxed off, which I would have thought would have been of benefit to any local people, because they don't have to look at the fire escapes anymore. The 2 extra bedrooms are in a sort of recess in the middle of the building, so they won't make any great difference to the aspect of the building to anybody in the surrounds. And I doubt if you could actually see very much of it from the local people. I can't see any reason on planning grounds whatsoever to turn this down.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Davis, you were also on the site visit. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I visited the site meetings, and what I observed was the close proximity of the property next door. And it's not just the family that live next door, there's a multiple apartments there. So it's going to affect a lot of people, definitely over intensification of the area, in my view. I mean, many years ago, we moved away from these institutional type large buildings, and here we are going backwards. The gardens, in my opinion, will not provide the recreational space that these people need for their well-being. They're going to be trapped inside. They can't walk very far because the pavements are quite narrow in that area. And what I did observe outside the building as well was a large amount of what appeared to be asbestos. I'd like to make that point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we'll go to. Oh, we'll just have the vice chair as well. She was on the site visit as well.
Sorry,
Just
yes,
got
I
the
did
full
attend.
lot.
I did attend the site visit. What I do want to draw attention to committee members is the close proximity of a day nursery, which is immediately, as you look at the map, Sandy Lodge, and then the next building to it is a day nursery, obviously with small children. I just want to
put me on throat here, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring in the local members. So bring in the local member who is a planning committee member first, which is Councillor Brian Jones, and then if Councillor Brian Blakely or Councillor Cheryl Williams want to come in after that, they are welcome to do so. Okay, so Councillor Brian Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we heard a pretty powerful reading from the local person to CARI by Paul Mead. I will obviously stick to pure planning reasons here. I'm actually obviously going to propose that we refuse this application on the basis of the existing building. It's been overdeveloped as it is. There's been too much development on that site previously to this development this proposal application coming along. If you stand at the rear of the buildings at CYTUNWYD, where the site visit was requested, that really focuses you in that the site has been overdeveloped. So I hope Mr. Pepin's making a note here that one of my reasons for turning this application down is that this application will just add to what already is too much overdevelopment of that site. The traffic implications are another reason why. The last surveys were done some time ago, and certainly before taking in account of the extra developments at Aberkinsey that are coming along, and probably extra developments further up the road at Mindale. Once again, we look at planning applications, planning meetings, and we don't look at the bigger picture, what's going to happen and what's going to affect it. There certainly isn't a need for it, and that is a partial planning reason to refuse it as well. There's other facilities less than a mile away, and we need good, proper facilities. So that's all I've got to say on it. We should have had the site visit at CYTUNWYD, because that does really hammer home the overdevelopment of this site. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just before I bring in the officers, so there's a couple of reasons there. I'll just ask for, will somebody second that proposal?
I'll second it, Chair. Peter.
Thank you, Councillor.
What's Ellie got a hand up for? What's Ellie got a hand up for?
Brian, I can hear you. Ellie can have a hand up if she wants. I'll just
Chair, I had my hand up as well, simply because I didn't realise, but I have a personal interest in John Horden. I know him. He used to be an ex-city councillor. That's all. I just wanted to state that as well while I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. As soon as you become aware of it, then you just make sure you're aware. So that's a personal interest. That's fine. Just make sure you fill in the form.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to bring in Paul Mead with regards to those reasons.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just really important for members of Planning Committee to focus their mind on the description of the proposal before them, really, in relation to the alterations that are being made to the building. I know issues have been raised there around sort of need and traffic implications, etc. I think if you were wanting to focus any potential reasons for refusal, the two words that I heard Councillor Jones say there around over-intensification, over-development of the site, their material planning considerations, impact on neighbouring properties, that's a material planning consideration as well. I think factually the building is being enlarged and altered. But the use isn't changing as part of this planning application. So we can't look at the use, the need for the use, the acceptability of the facilities, anything that sort of Councillor Ann Davis raised there around people not having enough space, etc. The use isn't being assessed as part of this application. You need to focus on the extension that's being proposed at the rear, the enclosure of the staircases and the proposed porch at the front. It's reasonable to suggest that because of those extensions that could constitute overdevelopment, and it's reasonable to suggest that those extensions may have an impact on the neighbours. They're things that you can focus on. Obviously, officers have assessed this application on that basis. We did carry out a site visit as well as a group of members in relation, and we went right round the building. So we had to focus on the impact of those extensions in relation to our assessment. And clearly from your officer report, we're saying that those extensions are acceptable in planning terms. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and just with regards to traffic, that's an acceptable, because I know Brian did mention that one. So just what's officers' comments on the traffic?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to be careful on that really, because the proposal isn't to sort of change the use of the building. The issue that you've got to focus on is in relation to the extensions that are being proposed. There is a 2-bed extension proposed at the rear. So again, you could use an argument, I guess, that if there's an additional 2 people that might be staying in those bedrooms, does that tip the balance in terms of the highway impacts locally? Based on this slight enlargement to the building, but I think overdevelopment and impact on neighbours is a much safer bet in terms of any potential concerns. Thank you.
Yes, so Councillor Brian Jones, just so we're really clear, so then when we go to any other debate and people are speaking, you've obviously given clearly the overdevelopment, the over-intensification, that's sort of on neighbours, and the impact on neighbours, that's the main reason you've given, and officers are obviously content with that as a reasonable reason. They obviously have concerns over the other ones. Do you want to just stick with that one reason, or do you want to?
Well, if it's, I mean, I encapsulated it in one: overdevelopment. I was meaning impact on neighbours as well. If you want to split that out, Chair, if you want to split that out, we'll be voting on its overdevelopment and it's the impact on the neighbours at the rear, because in my view, there's most definitely an impact on the neighbours at the rear when you view it from their properties. It's overdeveloped as it already is. I've said that. So yeah, they're the 2 reasons, Chair. I'm happy with that.
That's great. That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so just so we know what we're focusing on really, if anyone else wants to comment. Okay, so we've got a few other speakers, but I'm going to bring in the local members. So Councillor Brian Blakely, do you want to come in first?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I've heard all that's been going on. I've been to the original site meeting. I've spoken to local residents. The planning application, as I see it, is for 2 bedrooms. The fire escapes are already there to being enclosed. I can't see a problem with the actual application itself. I think if it was to go to any normal building, it would have gone through. The problem as I see it is our local residents are fearful of what might happen within that building once this application, if it went through, it might be changed from C2 to C2A. Comments from our planning officers where they read out the letter from the applicant says that it will stay C2. Hopefully it will. I totally understand where our residents are coming from, and it does worry me a great deal. The problem is that this is a straightforward application, a planning application regarding 2 bedrooms to enclosed fire escape. as a planning application, I can't see a problem with that. At the end of the day, there has been a problem in the past to do with residents at the rear of this. Noise. Had one complaint many years ago of a lady screaming, and that was rectified. The road problems we have, yes, there has been major problems on Desert Road. We have the Aberkinsey site, as you gather, but that is being sorted out with the new exit entrance at RHODFA'R. I find it very, very difficult here. I'm trying to represent the residents. I understand where they're coming from, but at the end of the day, I feel that if this application goes through, the argument then is with Healthcare Wales or with the Welsh Assembly Government as to the use of the building. I'm going to leave it at that, Chair. As I say, I haven't got a problem with the actual application. I do worry for my residents. I do worry, you know, something might happen in the future as regards use of the building inside. That reading up and going through all these applications and Googling and everything else, and people I've been to in our government, they tell me then the argument would be with Healthcare Wales and the Welsh Assembly Government if the donor tried to change anything within the building. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's very, very clear that you know, we totally understand the residents, but it's not for today in terms of the planning meeting is the point of what you're saying. Yep, thank you. Councillor Cheryl Williams, are you here and would you like to speak?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. I'm in full agreement with Brian Blakely here. I've also spoken to the residents at the same time. And, you know, I can't see an issue. At the end of the day, it's not for us at any planning committee to make decisions on what healthcare, you know, the regulators for this will be saying. It's a planning application in front of us. That's all it is. It's you know, for a 2-bedroom extension. I can't see any issue with that, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a few hands up. I've got Councillor Mark Young.
Thank you, Chair. I'll turn my camera off. Just a couple of points for officers and local members to answer. So a comment's been made about overdevelopment. So if Paul Griffin can just confirm, obviously these percents in planning regs on what you can and can't do. So if you can answer that, and how far or close is the building from, the new extension from neighbours? And to local members, a mention of childcare has been mentioned. Have they raised concerns? I can't see anything officially, so it'd be good if we had any feedback on that point, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Ellie Chard. You've got your hand up.
Basically, I was going to propose that we grant, because I've lived in the nursing home. It's been a nursing home for a long time, probably late 80s. And that's all we're looking at today. It's 2 bedrooms and the fire escapes. And if you want to know about the back garden, Mark, from Denby, it's a huge back garden. And I mean, over the years, I've been round all these houses and what have you, and looking round the places. It's a huge back garden of Sandy Lodge. And I am proposing that we grant. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. I can get a seconder for that as well. We don't need to have one, but if there is a seconder,
please.
Councillor Bob Murray has seconded that. Thank you. Okay. So we've had a proposal to refuse, and we've also had a proposal to grant. We've had the reason, obviously, for the proposal to refuse, and obviously the proposal to grant is just in accordance with officer recommendations, so we don't need to do any more on that. Do officers want to come in? I can see Councillor Brian Jones, you've got your hand up. I'll just let officers come in first, and then you can have the last word before we go to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just in response to Councillor Young's queries, really. Yeah, I mean, I think the word overdevelopment of a site, you normally use that when you're dealing with sort of residential extensions, and you try and maintain a sort of reasonable percentage of usable garden space for household extensions, etc. I think where you're talking about this particular building and what it would have been in its original form, I don't think we can deny that the building has been extended quite extensively over the years with sort of multiple schemes for extension, conservatories, porches and the like. So I think it's a bit subjective, the word overdevelopment. I think where you've got a history of applications for extensions to a building, this is obviously a commercial building. It's a building that's been used for residential care over a number of years. Further extensions to it, I guess you could argue, would be overdevelopment of the site. Obviously, officers aren't arguing that. Officers are arguing that the extensions proposed are perfectly acceptable, given that the size of the site and the space around the building. The distance to neighbouring dwellings, again, where we're looking at the sort of main potential impact here, it is going to be the extension at the rear, which is a first floor extension to create 2 bedrooms. There is already, it's not projecting any further towards neighbouring properties on Kai Griffith at the back. So there is already windows at 2-storey level and higher in relation to the rear elevation of the building. But we are accepting that there's a reasonable distance of over 21 metres back to back in any case, in terms of that proposed extension at the rear and the impact on Kai Griffith. So I think that hopefully answers the questions around overdevelopment and impact on neighbours, which, as I say, it's all in the report anyway. The issue then around, have we had any input from colleagues elsewhere within the council about the potential type of care, level of care? Well, clearly, because this application is for extensions to the building, we haven't, because there is no proposal to change the use. I think other members have kindly pointed out, really, in relation to the general management and registration and the arrangements for the use of buildings, that is generally done by the Care Standards Inspectorate anyway. So they wouldn't necessarily have commented either in relation to this proposal for extension. So I hope that answers those questions, Councillor Young. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bob Murray, you got your hand up.
Yeah, could I just ask Paul Mead what the difference is in over-intensification of site or overuse of curtilage?
Yeah, okay. I think you're trying to catch me out here today, aren't you, members, in terms of this terminology? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, overdevelopment tends to suggest that you've got a site area, you've got a curtilage area, and what's happened within that curtilage area is that there's been more buildings put on there that have taken up potentially green space or open areas. That would look at sort of overdevelopment as such. Over-intensification tends to be linked to uses. So you've got a use of a building that's currently, maybe contains a certain number of bedrooms, and there's a proposal then to put a lot more bedrooms within that building, within the same use. That could constitute maybe an over-intensification of use. Both of those words, Councillor Murray, obviously it's in relation to impacts. And we always have to assess what the impacts of those things might be, where the harm might be. In this instance, because of the size of the site, the size of the building, what's gone on there previously in terms of extensions, we don't consider this to be overdevelopment. We don't consider it to be over-intensification. Thank you, Chair.
Just one of the things Councillor Mark Young did raise was if the childcare business next door, had they raised any concerns? Just to pick up on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, there has been a number of objections received in relation to this application. However, there has been, they've normally been limited to the actual potential use of the building. We haven't really had any objections specifically from the Children's Day Nursery nearby in relation to the extensions to the building. I mean, the most the closest thing that would be happening to the day nursery in terms of the physical alteration to the building will be the enclosure of a currently exposed stairwell. So you could almost argue that people going up and down that stairwell making noise and shouting, it's being mitigated by the enclosure of it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring in this last speaker, the local member, Councillor Brian Jones. Got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Just to bring the conversation then back round to the planning elements of it all. We're not interested in all the kerfuffle around the edges. I've had the benefit of looking at the rear of Sandy Lodge from the address where they asked for the site visit. So I'm absolutely convinced that this little extension just adds on top to what should really have not have been passed at previous planning committee meetings. So it is a strong case when you view it from the rear of Sandy Lodge and them properties there. So I wanted to say that, and I would ask the members of the committee to consider that. It is a good reason to refuse this. It should be refused, and I hope they'll support me in what I've proposed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, that's really clear. I think we're all absolutely content with where we're at. So we're going to go to the vote. So remember, for this one, you are going to either vote for, which will be in accordance with officer recommendation. So for will be to grant, or we can say grant, in accordance with officer recommendation. Or you're going to go against, and if you are going to vote against, that is for the reason outlined by Councillor Brian Jones, who proposed it, or you obviously have the option of abstaining. Okay, so we'll start again with Councillor Joan Butterfield.
Chair, I'm for this application.
For, okay. Councillor Ellie Chard.
To grant.
Thank you. Councillor Ann Davis.
Against.
Councillor Alan Hughes.
For.
Councillor Brian Jones.
Against.
Councillor Tina Jones.
Against.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Obliged.
Councillor Christine Marston.
Against.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
Against.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry.
For.
Councillor Paul Penlington.
For.
Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
Against.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
Obliged.
And Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Okay, we'll just count up the votes.
Well done.
Okay, so we have 11 votes for, 0 abstain, and 7 votes against. Therefore, that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. Okay, we are moving on. We'll do one more item, and then we'll have a short break because we've got one more public speaker item. Okay, and then we will have a 10-minute break before we get into the Denby Hospital and other many applications. Okay, so we've got, this is agenda item, just see where we're at. We're on agenda item 10 now, which is on page 269 of your agenda packs. Give me a moment. So agenda item 10, the ward is RHYL East. The ward members are Councillors Barry Mellor and Councillor Tony Thomas. The application number is 45/2021/0265/PF. The proposal is the change of use of land to Skyflyer balloon tourist attraction, including the installation of concrete platform, mounted winch and associated Skyflyer balloon and basket, siting of toilet and reception buildings, landscaping and associated works. The location is the former Sun Centre site in East Parade, RHYL LL 183AQ. And we do have a public speaker for this. The officer recommendation is to grant. The public speaker for is a Mr. Sean Taylor, who is the applicant. So when you are ready, you will have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Good, Pnawn da, good afternoon, leader, chair, committee members and officers. My name is Sean Taylor. I'm the founder and president of ZITWorld, who have 3 sites in North Wales and 1 in South Wales. And at present, we're employing circa 580 people. My objective is to create an all-year-round world-class experience in an iconic place, which ticks the bill for RHYL. The unique selling point of this, it'll be the first aerial experience of its type in the world, which will be coming to RHYL, hopefully. It will fly in 40 knots of wind, and it'll take up to 30 people to an altitude of 120 meters. It can withstand storm force winds in excess of 80 knots. The proposal represents an investment of circa £2 million, and that would support direct employment for phase 1 of 7 full-time and 4 part-time local people before we develop and other experiences which I would share with you in future. I envisage the visitor numbers year 1 to be 67,175, year 2 133,000, and by year 4 plateauing at about 145,000. We were initially hoping to operate for Easter, but due to delays, we're now looking at a May opening date. There is an 8 or 9 month lead time for the manufacture and installation of the balloon. I have a history of working with accommodation providers, other activity providers, local and Welsh governments to create a sustainable tourism attractions. I see the Skyflyer customer base being massively diverse, ranging from young children to elderly, suitable for disabled customers, wedding groups, corporate, family groups, and also educational groups. The Skyfly experience is certainly not an adrenaline ride, but more of a visual experience to see RHYL, the North Wales coast, Mull Vamai, the landscape from the Great Orme to Liverpool with a different perspective. We will be working very closely with Denbyghshire Leisure. I don't see any displacement for any other businesses in RHYL or the local area. In fact, I see it as an attraction to bring more people to RHYL. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll just see if any of the local members. So, Councillor Tony Thomas, do you want to come in on this as local member?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously this is I think it'll be quite an iconic development for RHYL. It's certainly going to bring a lot of business in, a lot of people, and it's going to enhance the area. At the moment, it's an empty plot of land. A few things have been mooted about it, but this is by far the best that I've seen, and it would get my full support. I think it'd be a great asset to RHYL, and I would therefore like to propose that it's accepted, please.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Peter Scott, I can see seconding it. Yeah, I've got you down to speak, Councillor Joan Butterfield.
Yeah, I would have been very happy to have seconded the ward member. I see that this will be hopefully an advantage to the experience of coming to RHYL. We look forward to it, I think. And I do have a confidence that this site will be attractive and successful. But I'm looking at the conditions that might well be put in place, and looking at the conditions, it's quite clear that there is a condition to clean or clear the site if indeed this attraction fails. We all, I'm sure, wish it well, but I have got to look at perhaps what might happen, and I would like it to be in more detail the clearance of the site should the attraction fail. This will be to clear the concrete area base to be removed, and also the winch and the associated works. I'd like this putting in the conditions to be more detailed. Thank you, Chair, but I do wish it well. I'm very happy. I would have been very happy to have seconded it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Did officers get that? Because it was quite quiet just on the clearance of the site.
Yeah, I think I did. If members want to sort of beef up that condition in terms of what we do with the site clearance, that's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay. As the proposer, Councillor Tony Thomas, are you happy with that? Just beefing up the condition of the site clearance, or you may not have heard it all.
Not really, Chair. No, I'm quite happy for it to go ahead. I don't think we need to put any obstacles in its way. I think I'm very positive about it, so I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
If a majority of people want it, then okay, but personally, no.
Okay, I'll just what we'll do is we'll go
come
around.
back, if I may, Chair.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, Councillor John Butterfield. Yes.
Could I just thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to take more time. I'm very confident that this attraction will prove a positive asset to RHYL and of course the county. It is a year-round attraction that will obviously be bringing work to the area. So I have no problem with it at all. But I do believe the condition of clearance of the site isn't quite in detail as I would like to see it, and hopefully could put that into the conditions in that it would be the associated work as well, not just the concrete base, but the winches and the associated work.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll bring in Paul Mead there because I understand your point, but I also understand, yeah, Tony Thomas's point. We don't want to put unnecessary burdens on the developer. So, but I understand both. So Paul will hopefully be able to clear things up so we can get a.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just looking on a compromise situation in relation to this, because obviously, we've got to accept that it's land that the council own as well. So in a lot of these circumstances, we don't necessarily want duplication of controls here. I think from what I'm hearing, everyone is fairly unanimous that they want this to work. The risk that we're trying to mitigate against is that we're left with a vacant, derelict, potentially untidy site that nobody's touched for years and years, and it's nobody's responsibility to do anything. I think you've got two choices there. One is you can impose a condition, which is what we're trying to do in this instance. If that condition needs to be more specific, we can go away and try and agree that with local members if required, or the other preference really would be to leave it to us as a landowner to sort of deal with that in terms of the contractual arrangements with the applicant and what happens in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we look at page 294 on number 11, that does seem to me to be quite robust. If I just read it out very briefly, should the use of the site for the Skyflyer balloon tourist attraction cease for a continuous period of 6 months, the Skyflyer balloon and all ancillary structures shall be removed and the land restored in accordance with a scheme to be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. So they do have to, so I think Councillor Butterfield, that does really hopefully cover the bases really, because they will have to submit something that we will have to agree with. I think your concerns are noted, and then if that's because they will have to submit something, it will have to be something that we do agree with, and certainly local members will be involved in that. Do you want to come in, Joan?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will be content with that wording, but hopefully that wish it every success, but should it fail in any way, I will rely on the council through the planning to be as robust as they possibly could, and I do thank you for that. So I do accept that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
And I will withdraw any of my further concerns. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Christine Marston.
Thank you, Chair. Just again, clarification on condition number 7, no signage, and then in brackets it says advertising or directional. And it's talking about sort of on the is it on the gondola? Does it include the actual balloony bit? Thank you.
Come in
Coming on that,
Yeah, go
Chair.
for it.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just a control condition. So that we want to make sure that it doesn't rule anything out in relation to signage, but it's just written approval from us of whatever they might want to put on. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I've got Councillor Bob Murray.
Yep, Chair. I'd like to ask Sean, the person that's going to be doing this.
You can't ask Sean any questions today.
Oh, crikey. All right, I'll ask the thing then. I've looked back on this quite a bit and I hope it does succeed. But I've seen one in Disneyland that absolutely cost them a fortune and never came to it. One in Australia, Ayers Rock, that blew up and they threw that to the side. It goes up, it looks over the sea, it looks over the roofs of RHYL. This is exactly what happened to the Sky Tower. Most people that went up the first year, thousands of them, but the complaint was, we're just looking over the roofs of RHYL, and it is very weather reliant. I'm not against it because we need everything we can get, but I'm not so sure it's going to be as or work as well as we think it is. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's fine. I don't think. Oh, Councillor Paul Penlington. Struggling to hear there, Paul.
My family and I have used
Paul, we can't hear anything. Sorry. Oh, your camera is actually on, so turn your camera off, even though we can't see you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Oh.
We can hear you. Well, we
Can you hear
could.
me now?
Yes.
Right, I was going to say, my family and I have used most of the Zip World attractions in the area over the last few years. And I will say, it's not, you can hear me?
No, we've lost you again. If you want to write something in the chat, that might be more appropriate.
And I was going to say, they're a very, very professional outfit. The stuff they've put in place is extremely well built, extremely well run, extremely safe. And I wouldn't hesitate to expect them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the gist of things. Yeah, if you stop talking now, because you're still carrying on. It's about a 5-second delay, I think. Yeah, we understand you're in favour. We've seen that on the chat, and you've said they're extremely professional, organisation. I mean, from a personal point, would concur with that. We've used a few of their attractions. We've had friends from America that have used them because of the fantasticness of them, and obviously that's the risk they're bearing with this development, and not for something for us to really be considering today. So I think we can go to the vote. I think we've had quite a lot of a debate about it, and we've had all of the issues considered by officers. So as always, we'll go to the vote, and it will be to grant or for, in accordance with officer recommendation, to grant the application. Then we've got against, obviously, if you don't want to go for it, and then we've got abstain as well. Okay, so we'll start off. Councillor Joan Butterfield.
I am for, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ellichard.
Grant.
Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Councillor Alan Hughes.
Grant. For.
Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Cynllunio.
Obliged.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry.
For.
Councillor Paul Penlington. And I know he is for,
It's for.
but unless he says it right now, we can't. Paul, try and speak again. Yeah, I think it's not going to make any difference. He was for, though. I think I heard him then. Okay, Councillor Pete Prendergast. Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
O blaid.
Councillor Mark Young.
For and good luck.
Pob luck.
Okay, so we have 18 votes for, no abstain and no against. Therefore, that application has been granted.
For.
I think on behalf, was that Paul Penlington's for then, about 20 seconds?
Is he in another country?
Okay. So I think we would all wish that the best of luck as a new exciting development. Okay, we're going to have a short break now, about 10 minutes until 3:20. And then if we can all come back as soon as we can, because again, we have got quite a few things to go through still. Okay, so just a short comfort break if we can. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back. So we're moving on to agenda item number 5, which is page 17 of our report. The ward is Denby Upper / Henllan. The ward members are councillors Geraint Lloyd Williams and councillor Glenn Swingler. The application number is 01/2020/0315/PF. The proposal, here we go, is the conversion, restoration, part demolition and adaptation of main range listed buildings to residential use, 34 dwellings, demolition of nurses' home, mortuary, isolation ward, allied ward and former gasworks buildings, and development of land within the hospital grounds for mixed use as enabling development, including up to 300 residential units and up to 1,114 square meters of business units, comprising a mix of A1, A2, A3, B1, C1, C2, C3, D1 and D2 uses, siting of the Denby Cricket Club and construction of access drainage and associated works. The location is the former North Wales Hospital, Denby. Okay, there is no late information on that, apart from there is a little bit of the officer's notes. Okay, so as you can see, there was a member briefing last week, and there is some information from Councillor Rhys Thomas. He's not a local member he's not the local member, but he's a Denby member area group member. And so that's why his information is on there, because he couldn't attend today. I'll just bring in Paul Mead, who's going to introduce this item for us.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, officers consider it appropriate to provide committee with a brief introduction to this item, given the length of the main officer report. It was for this reason, and given the complex planning history of the site, that officers also provided members with an informal briefing on the application on Wednesday, the 1st of September. Factually, the type of planning application before members today is known as a hybrid application. This means part of the application contains detailed plans and the other part is in outline, with details to be further agreed by the submission of future applications. The proposal includes the conversion and restoration of the main Grade 2 star listed building into 34 apartments. And alongside this restoration, and in part to enable and fund the restoration, the proposal includes the development of up to 300 dwellings, 1,114 square meters of commercial space and other ancillary works. These works would also include the possible relocation of Denby Cricket Club and a whole host of other infrastructure works. The application has been made by Jones Brothers Rithin Holdings Limited and was the subject of a full pre-application consultation process in early 2020. This is a statutory process and involved wide-scale community consultation. Officers of the local planning authority have worked closely with a wide range of specialist consultees and the applicant's numerous consultants to progress the application since the pre-application consultation. This has resulted in the application being presented to you today, and it's important to note there are no specialist consultee objections on this proposal. At this point, it's important to also highlight to members the previous planning applications for development of this site, which committee has previously determined. There are 2 relevant planning applications which have been granted by previous planning committees for restoration of listed buildings and the development of areas of the site for housing and commercial uses. One of these was in 2007, and more recently, a scheme was presented to Planning Committee in 2016, which members resolved to grant subject to a 106 legal agreement. Those schemes and this scheme before you today involve what is also known as enabling development. This concept is set out clearly within your local development plan policies an adopted site development brief and national guidance. Enabling development allows for housing and other development to take place in order to fund the restoration and reuse of heritage assets. In this case, the scheme proposal seeks enabling development of up to 300 dwellings to fund in part the restoration of the main range Grade 2 star listed buildings at the former Denby Hospital. The officer report clearly sets out the detailed assessments that have taken place in line with your LDP policy VOE4, which deals with enabling development. Officers conclude the proposal before you adheres to this policy and the principles of the adopted site development brief. The report sets out relevant controls and obligations to ensure that the eventual restoration of the relevant listed buildings takes place alongside any enabling development. Officers would like to emphasise that the report presented to you is the culmination of extensive negotiations and discussions with technical consultees and appointed solicitors to ensure the submitted information has been scrutinised and checked. Given the fact that this is a hybrid application with many detailed issues and precise controls still to be set out, officers consider it will be appropriate to present a further detailed report to committee detailing the precise Section 106 legal agreement terms. The general terms have, however, been set out for members in this report in order to reassure members that various material issues have been duly considered and will be built into any subsequent approval. Officers want to emphasise the key economic, heritage and cultural benefits that this scheme could bring to Denby and the wider county. It is felt that this opportunity to save a key heritage asset alongside the wider economic activity this brings outweighs any potential impacts of the enabling development. That's about it, Chair. From me, I'm happy to now answer any questions from members. Thank you.
Okay, so as always, if members do want to speak, then just put the raise hand up on the Zoom. I'm not sure if either of the local members, Councillor Glenn Swingler, would you like to come in at this point?
Yeah, thanks very much. This is a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest, under normal circumstances, we'd have, this wouldn't even have got this far. It'd have been kicked out before we even got this far. There's no affordable housing, there's no social housing. It's just one big massive housing estate at the end of the day. But having said that, the fiasco that's been caused by the North Wales Hospital over the years, certainly something's got to be done, and this has to be it, I suppose. I mean, it's great that Jones Brothers are involved. That's the first thing, and they've already got their apprenticeship scheme set up on site there. That's good. I mean, the things that concern me obviously are the listed buildings being knocked down, no affordable or social housing there at all. Can Denbighshire County Council, now that they've had £1 million in the HRA from the Lodge Farm estate, can they not build some council houses on that site if they pay off Jones Brothers or whoever they need to pay? The roads, Lenton Pool in Denby is already a mess and it's already really busy. And if you'll just bear with me a second, I've got a massive tooth infection. I just need to swirl some water. Thank you. So we need to make sure that there's something with the roads being sorted out, because that's going to become 300 houses. How many people's that? 800 people, 700 cars. So something will have to be done on Lenton Pool. The planning application is very vague around the non-housing aspects of the site, and I really would like to see a lot more detail about what will go there in terms of any workshops or anything like that. I mean, there was mention of a gym and a possible pub, all these sorts of things. There doesn't seem to be too much solid there. What if we don't accept this planning application? Then we've seen what's happened over previous years with the fires at the hospital, and it's gone into rack and ruin. It has a major historical importance to the people of Denby. So, you know, it's important that even though it's only 3 walls that are left, you know, it is important that that's kept. So on the one hand, I'm for it, and on the other hand, I'm against it. Yeah, under normal circumstances, we would reject this on so many grounds. My question: at what point will the main building actually be completed? You know, I worry these days about the type of housing that's being built as well. Nowadays, housing developments seem to have these wood-panelled fences, you know, based in concrete, which doesn't allow wildlife to move around gardens, for example. I'd hate to see, so I hope something will be done, you know, around our biodiversity policies. School places, you know, that's something we're going to have to look at in the future, certainly. So yeah, it's something that, you know, I object to on so many grounds. But on the other hand, I cannot see any alternatives, and at this point, it's either this or the building goes, and it is very historically important to Denby.
No, that's fine. I mean, you're lucky that you're not on planning committees. You don't actually have to come off the fence.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it is.
So it is a difficult one. I mean, you know, let's put Denbighshire County Council where Denbighshire County Council needs to be on this. It's been a disaster and a fiasco from day one, but we are where we are. So you know, let's get some houses built. But my main question there is, what time will the main building be completed? Or do we have to sell? Do we, you know? And can Denbighshire County Council please try and get some affordable housing or social housing on this site? As I said, just had £1 million put into the HRA. So, you know, let's try and use some of that money to good cause by building either some social housing or putting towards affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. No, I can see there's a few members to speak. Everyone will get their turn, but just important not to repeat. If we can not repeat any of the points that obviously Councillor Glenn-Swingler's brought up, I would have thought quite a lot of the main points there. So if you do speak, obviously officers will reply to that, but just don't repeat anything. Do officers want to come in on those points first, and then I'll bring in other members?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, I can do that. And thanks to Councillor Swingler for the points that he's raised there. I think he's sort of summarised it pretty accurately in terms of the dilemmas that we've got. I think fundamentally, we do have this opportunity to try and save a cultural and heritage asset. But unfortunately, you know, that does result in the requirement for enabling development, and your policy that you've got in your LDP does allow for enabling development to try and fund these types of restoration. But unfortunately, with that type of thing, in terms of the financial viability fundamentally of those types of schemes, the focus has to be on the saving of the listed buildings and not necessarily on issues such as affordable housing and education provision and all the stuff that you would normally get on a normal housing development. So I fully take Councillor Swingler's point. I also think, you know, I take the point that the loss of listed buildings on the site to almost save the best and remaining listed buildings, you know, that's been regrettable over the course of time, but it is, you know, we are where we are in relation to that. I think what I would say is that the issue around an apparent lack of detail and an apparent sort of maybe vagueness, I think was the word used, around the delivery of everything here. I think it is fundamentally down to the issue of financial viability. I think the issue around whether public sector funding can be used to do a number of things on this site, that's still up for grabs. I think this is the sort of first step in the direction of securing additional public funding to do that. So I'm sure that we'll be bringing reports back to Planning Committee with a bit more meat on the bones for Councillor Swingler in terms of that. Just to try and reassure, however, what we'd be looking for in relation to a Section 106 legal agreement, a couple of points that were raised by Councillor Swingler there. The restoration of the main range listed buildings will be uppermost as part of that. We will need to make sure that the wording of the legal agreement is pretty precise on the delivery of that at the appropriate time. And ideally, we always want those sorts of things more at the start of the development than right at the end. So I think if in answer to the question, would there be 300 dwellings on the site and the listed buildings haven't been touched? Well, no, that's definitely not what we'd be aiming for. We want to get the main range listed buildings done as soon as we possibly can. Likewise, in terms of some of the highway infrastructure requirements that might be needed, improvements to Lenton Pool, footpath improvements, passing places, all those types of things, they will also be included within a legal agreement and delivered at the appropriate time when they're needed to minimise any potential impacts on Denbigh town. I'm hoping that answers most of the points that Councillor Swingler made there. As I say, it is a difficult one. It is one where officers have had to try and give you the recommendation we've done. It's subject to conditions and a legal agreement, when a lot of the stuff that's been mentioned there will be covered in those things. Thank you.
Glenn, do you want to come back in? I think you had your hand up there.
Yeah. Sorry, just you know, over this business about the legal agreements. Should the legal agreements not be in place first before planning is given? I'm just thinking out loud. That's all. Or each time, or once the legal agreements have been put in place, does it then come back to council in any way? Thanks.
Paul will answer that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of work has already been done on the legal agreement, and there is quite a bit of detail in the 90-odd page report that you've got there on the general heads of terms that we'd be looking to deal with in terms of a Section 106 agreement. But as I said earlier, I think it would be appropriate, given the importance and the scale of this proposal, we would bring the details of the legal agreement back to Planning Committee for members to finally sanction. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Thank you, Joe. I'll put my camera off just so I don't mumble. Right, can you hear me now? Yeah. Thank you, Chair, for having the chance to talk. I'm very much in support of this plan. Whatever we do on this site, I'm sure we're not going to please everybody. My history of this site goes back a long way. I don't know if they declare an interest in it, but I had a long-term family relative, my mum's brother, who was a patient here all his life. And from a young child, I spent most weekends going there to visit him with my mother. And probably quite a sad site. And it's been sad ever since it's closed down. So I'm looking forward to seeing some development going forward here. And whatever we do, and if we have to adapt the plan slightly as we go along, well, so be it. But I'm looking forward to seeing this site being developed. And Chair, I would like to propose to grant this application today.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Yeah, so that's to support the officer recommendations. I can see Councillor Bob Murray's hand. I saw a few, but that was the one I can see on my screen of many faces. Okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you. Councillor Mark Young.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers. I'll turn my camera off also. So I just want to go through, obviously, very detailed report, and when you read it, you understand how difficult and challenging the site is. So I just want officers just to give a bit of clarity, Paul, if you may. I know you've been challenged a lot today, but I think this should be quite easy for you. But we talk about phasing in works and doing improvements at different times, etc. So I'd just like to understand how that will work to make sure it works, because obviously if it doesn't work, members are going to get a lot of stick locally. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. And you know, that it is management wise, it is going to be a challenge management wise and funding wise. And we have a golden opportunity here with the active travel. And if you look at the plans going around highways at the moment for this area, there's a lot of schemes which could happen. So it's just a commitment of officers to make sure that they're working with Ben Wilcox and his team to make sure, like in Llangollen, that their members work with officers and got different pots of money to make sure we get all the opportunities to get a good active travel for this area, because that's really important to residents. I've had that feedback. And then finally, I'm with Mervyn, and I understand, you know, it's been a real journey since it's closed. It's been really upsetting. Every time we turned the telly on, there was fire, there was vandalism. And now we have a golden opportunity, and I believe this is the last chance saloon for us. And, you know, no application is perfect. And before us, we have a negative site, but we have a chance of turning it into a positive. We've got a highly respected local builder who are willing to take a risk, and there is a risk on this site, let's not forget that. They're going to provide investment, housing, and hopefully a new cricket club, jobs. So I believe we should approve this along with Mervyn Parry. I will be, and I would encourage members to do that, so we can finally have a positive for this site after 26 years of a negative. So I look forward to the vote and hope members can support us. But I would like Paul just to clarify them couple of points, please.
Okay, I'll bring in Paul now, just otherwise I might forget with other speakers.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Young. Yeah, there is quite a bit of detail in that report, and a lot of it is around some of the terms of the legal agreement. And clearly, you're right. What we want to ensure is that we've got a workable and deliverable phasing strategy. And some of the key issues for Denbighshire County Council on that will be, certainly the restoration of the heritage asset, certainly the protection of the environment, biodiversity, ecology, improvements to infrastructure round and about. All those things need to be set out quite clearly within phasing. And you're right, there might be opportunities here for public sector funding coming from a variety of sources, and one will be certainly with the active travel legislation that we've got. So yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Young for those points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn, ti eisiau dod I mewn?
Ie, diolch yn fawr. Dwi'n trio osgoi ailadrodd beth sydd wedi cael ei ddeud eisoes, dim mwy na deud y mod i'n cefnogi'r elfen gadwraeth i'r CAIS, ac hefyd yn derbyn sgil hynny bod rhaid i'r datblygiad felly gyrru ymlaen mwyn ariannu llawer iawn o'r elfennau hyn. Dwi'n nodi at y dalen 60, dwi'n cofio lle mae'n deud ar yr adroddiad bod yna dileu indecision, bod yna ohirio yn y penderfyniad wedi wneud yn y gorffen tro dwytha, a mae'r rheswm dros y gyhurio oedd bod yna ymatebion allweddol o ran yr ymgynghori a'r goll. Dwi'n newydd gyfri rwan, mae yna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, mae yna 10 ymateb yn dal parhau I fod ar y goll. Rwan te, pa mor allweddol ydyn nhw? Wel, dwi'n siŵr yn mhob grŵp, Denbigh Civic Society, Denbigh Historic Society, maen nhw gyd yn sicr yn teimlo bod yna ran gan nhw, dwi'n siŵr, yn y penderfyniad a diddordeb o'n hwn. Mae Scottish Power, Open Reach, ond dwi wedi rhoi seren yr arbennig wrth y Welsh Ambulance Service a Betsy Cadwaladr. Dwi'n synnu bod rheini dal I fod ar goll. Os oes, mae'r allweddol iawn sy'n ni'n dweud, methu dall pam bod hyn yn cael ei dderbyn heddiw, roedd ger y broni heddiw, heb gael ymateb oddi wrth. Y ddau yma'n arbennig, ond hefyd efallai rheswm pam bod y lleill heb ymateb. Dwi'n gresynu bod yna diffyg cartrefi cymdeithasol ac fforddiadwy. Dwi hefyd yn synnu nad oes na sesiad wedi wneud o ran lleoliadau yr ysgol mewn ysgolion. Mae'r bownd o gael impact, mae 302 yn mynd I olygu bod yna llawer iawn o blant ychwanegol yn mynd I fod yn byw yn y dre a angen i'w haddysgu a gwasanaethau iechyd wedi digwydd yn y gynt. Mae gennau bryder mawr iawn ar yr impact ar yr iaith Gymraeg. Dwi ddim yn fodlon nad oes ddim adroddiad llawn wedi'w gynnig I ni yn hwn. Gai os gwelwch yna ofyn, os gawn ni olwg ar adroddiad llawn gyda enwau ynghlwm wrth yr adroddiad ynghyd â chymwysterau y sawl sydd yn sgwennu'r adroddiad. Dwi'n dall pam bod yna absenoldeb y financial viability, ond weir eisiau cael golwg ar hwnna yn help garw I rai yn dwi'n siŵr. Dwi'n croesawu'r ffaith bod yna swyddi ychwanegol yn cael i'w creu yn sgil hyn hefyd. A mae gen I bob hyder yn ngallu'r cwmni yma I wedi delifero yr hyn y maen nhw'n dymuno I wneud. Diolch yn fawr.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Councillor Ellie Chard.
I am definitely not repeating myself, and I would just like to thank Planning Committee for organising the training session last week. I did learn things, and I do know that there's going to be a bat house being erected, which I was really fascinated with. But and of course, I do sympathise with the fact that affordable houses, that number should be 100%. But hey ho, but thank you for the training session. It was very informative last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. My report is in English, so I'll go through the various aspects. Constraints on page 1. I'm surprised that all you have is flood zone, public rights of way and listed building, but there's no ecology or environmental constraints. So that's one point I have. Referral by development manager, still on page 1. Who is that? Is that representative of the council or Jones Brothers? There seems to be a mixture of messages about drains. And I think that this is something extremely important and which will have an impact on the town. So I hope that shortcuts won't be taken and that people will be doing things on the cheap. It's essential that works such as drainage are carried out fully. The report of the biodiversity officer, could we have a report on the current situation? I assume that he has or she has written a report. Is that available on the council website that we could look at? And the funding that is being talked about, and I suppose a lot of this is the levelling up or growth funding. Do you have any idea when we will know about that? Then, about, my pages aren't numbered, unfortunately, transport and access statement. And there's always in these parts of the report, it's always considering the use of the hospital when it was in full use with 1,500 patients and about 700 staff. So they say the traffic will not be as bad as then. It's a different age completely. Not everyone has a car then. Most people, most families now have three cars. So that's another thing that I wanted to raise. Some I will not raise now, but I do worry greatly about the impact on the community of Denbigh. The highways, we did have as councillors, 5 or 7 of us MAG councillors, we did have a meeting with highways officers about a year ago. I don't think we had a report from that, but I would hope that the highways report will come to the next MAG, because that is vitally important. As someone has already mentioned about Lenton Pool. And see, I've got 2 more pages that I wanted to pick up on. Oh yes, the affordable housing. That has been taken up. And, oh yes, you talk about a liaison committee and forming a liaison committee, and there's no mention of the town council. I'm not on the town council, and also impact on local services. You have concerns expressed by the community council. It is a town council, so I think we should get that right. now our leader and our new chief exec were interviewed about a week ago on site, and the leader talked about an engagement program. There was a video there. I would like to know much more about this engagement program, because this is a very, very important site for the people of Denbigh. And I have to admit that I'm very disappointed. It's our open doors weekend when we celebrate heritage and encourage other people to appreciate heritage, the heritage of their area, that we weren't allowed to have a guided tour of the hospital on our program. So what engagement will there be with the community? And lastly, the impact on health, education, and parking, but health and education, it is going to be horrendous, and someone is going to have to pay for that. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay. Diolch yn fawr. I can answer one of those questions. The development manager is Paul Mead. I think quite often it doesn't come to planning committee unless there's a trigger. And obviously this just being a massive application, it didn't want to just go through on officers on delegated powers, obviously. So that's why it's been brought to committee. So that's that answer. I'll let the other tricky 10 questions, Paul can come in on those.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll just go back, if I may, to Councillor Emrys Wynne and the points that he raised first. And yeah, obviously we go pretty far and wide in terms of our consultations on an application of this scale, and we don't have any real control over who responds and who doesn't. Safe to say, really, that in relation to the key consultation responses in terms of the main material planning considerations, we have had responses and nobody's objected. You've got to remember as well that this type of development, the principle of trying to develop the Denbigh Hospital site for enabling development has gone through a number of processes. First and foremost, your policy within your local development plan. The local development plan went through a public inquiry process, and this particular site was discussed as part of the adoption of their LDP. There was a site development brief, a specific site development brief for Denbigh Hospital that went through a public consultation exercise. And again, it was adopted by Denbighshire County Council as a supporting document for redevelopment. So I think public engagement, public involvement, consultee involvement, specialist consultee involvement has been widespread over the last sort of 10 years. You know, you've got to accept that some people are going to be a little bit more engaged than others in relation to the specifics of this proposal and what detail we've currently got. Other people might come back in at a later date when we've got more detail of some of the issues, and we will reconsult those people on that. I'll move on to Councillor Ellie Chard. She'd obviously thanked us for the training last week. I'm grateful to you, Councillor Chard, for that comment. And yes, there is bat houses going to be proposed on this site as well. I'll move on to talk a little bit more in detail about that when I cover Councillor Kensler's points, which I'll try and go through as I jotted them down. I think the first point that was made there was around ecology and biodiversity. One of the key reasons that this has taken over a year to bring to planning committee since Jones Brothers submitted their planning application was precisely that issue of ecology and biodiversity. There was clearly concerns raised by Natural Resources Wales and our own county ecologist around the huge diversity that we've got on this particular site, and the importance to not only meet our planning policy legislation requirements here, but also our sort of habitat regulations, climate change and biodiversity regulations. So there's a hell of a lot of information that's on our website that's been submitted by the specialist consultants employed by Jones Brothers, who put in detailed documents on ecology and biodiversity. They've now been looked at by Natural Resources Wales. They've been looked at by Joel Wally, our county ecologist, and subject to certain conditions and controls, they're completely content that this scheme will be built around ecology and biodiversity and hopefully be seen as an exemplar type of development in relation to protecting the environment. Again, in relation to drainage, two aspects always with drainage. One is connection to public sewers, and that is something that the applicant will have to pursue in relation to the development. As I said, the hospital had been connected to sewerage previously. The other element, which is a bit more modern than when the hospital was operating, is obviously sustainable drainage and the requirement to ensure that the site has a sustainable drainage system. And again, our drainage officer has looked at the principles of that for this site and has raised no objections. You'd mentioned there, Councillor Kensler, around the vagaries around future funding and where that would be coming from, and would we get some more details on that? Clearly, this is seen as a step now at this planning committee to sort of take us forward to put business cases to Welsh Government in regard to the growth fund and the money that's available there. I'd mentioned before that there would be other funding streams in relation to active travel, etc. So clearly funding, viability and delivery of this particular development are inextricably linked. And I think what members want to be reassured on here is that further down the line in terms of phasing, delivery, and the provision of various things that we've been talking about here today, it will be all linked in and tied up, and you will have an opportunity to scrutinise that delivery. Again, that links to your transport and access comment, Councillor Kensler. There is a detailed report that was produced by Mike Parker and Mike Jones in relation to what might be required off-site here in terms of some highway improvements. They would be built into your legal agreements, your planning and your highways legal agreements for delivery further down the line. You'd mentioned there around the suggestion that we've put within the committee report about a future liaison committee. And what we're looking at there is the sort of delivery element of the scheme. It's multi-layered. It's about restoring the listed buildings. It's about making sure that ecology and biodiversity work. It's about ensuring that longer term, the site is looked after. And clearly there will be roles there for the town council, for CADEIRYDD, for Chris Evans, who's actually on this meeting, our conservation architect, and other organisations that want to make sure that we preserve and enhance the main range listed buildings. I think that was probably about it. You mentioned there about engagement. Factually, in relation to this planning application, what we're doing here is we're looking for members to resolve to grant subject to conditions and a legal agreement. We're resolving that the legal agreement details will be brought back to planning committee. Further engagement on precise areas of how the site will be developed will also be done through reserve matters applications as well. So I need you to be reassured that in granting this planning permission today, or resolving to grant, there's not going to be widespread development on the site without further member involvement. There clearly will. So I hope that answers the questions that Councillor Emrys Wynne and Councillor Kensler have made. I'm happy to come back if I haven't. Thank you.
Emrys, do you want to come back?
Diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Dim ond gofyn unwaith eto, dwi eisiau clywed un byd am diffyg ymateb oddi wrth Betsi Cadwaladr. Dwi'n meddwl bod hwnna'n allweddol ar gyfer gallu gwasanaethu yr ystad yma dros y 10 mlynedd o ddatblygu. A hefyd yr adroddiad llawn, os gwelwch yn dda, ar effaith y Gymraeg. Yn ysgrifennu na thalfyriad, dyn ni wedi cael yr adroddiad. Efallai byddwn ni'n gallu gofyn am amod bod ni'n cael adroddiadau cyson ar yr effaith ar yr iaith Gymraeg wrth i'r ar gael i'w ddatblygu, fel bod ni'n gwybod yn o lew be di canran o'r cartrefi sydd yn aros yn wylo lleol ac o bosib yn sgil hynny yn parhau i fod yn gefnogol i ddatblygu'r Gymraeg yn yr ardal. Nid bod nifer y bobl o tu allan, mae'n siŵr hefyd bod yr un mor gefnogol ddim yn deud hynny o gwbl. Ond, ia, gofyn os bosib hynny fel amod, bod yna adroddiad cyson.
Okay, thank you.
I'll come back in on that. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the lack of response by Betsy Cadwallader, I reiterate really the sort of history of this particular site, the history of LDP adoption, the involvement of Betsy Cadwallader during those processes in terms of the adoption of the site development brief. They've clearly, if they had an objection, if they had concern, they've had an opportunity to submit that they haven't as part of this particular application. The issue in relation to Welsh language and culture, you'll note within the report there that there is a specific heads of terms notes that we've put on for the legal agreement, where we will require further details of Welsh language and culture, and to ensure that a strategy is set up for that. So the things that Councillor Emrys-Wyn is mentioning there in terms of statistical evidence, in terms of enhancements and improvements and promotion of the Welsh language and culture as part of this development, that will all be set out within the legal agreement, and we will have it within our gift to either approve or refuse the details within that Welsh language strategy. So hopefully that will cover that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I can see the leader has got his hand up. So last speaker, and then because we've had a proposal to grant and second it, we've had a good long debate on it. So leader, if you want to come in, and then we will go to the vote on it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, really, I can't disagree with much of what's been said by local members and the planning committee here, but this is a real opportunity for us in Denbighshire and for Denby. And we can't always have everything that we want. You know, our priorities is affordable housing. The fact that we cannot get everything we want out of this development because it is clearly an enabling development. And that in itself suggests that enabling, the funding allocated from that will go into maintaining the old buildings, which are in quite a state, I have to say. So the history, we all know the history. It's not been good. It was there before any of us become councillors. But the important thing for me, Chair, is the timescales of development are important in understanding the impact on the services, you know, education, health, etc. The highways as well. Llangollen have shown the way with what can be done with highways in terms of pooling all the active travel funds into one project and having one big project in there. There's nothing to stop Denby doing that at the appropriate time. But it's about the phasing, as Paul was saying there. Just wanted to respond to Councillor Kensler in terms of the open doors. Yes, there was a consideration for that, but the state of the buildings are so bad, it's still not in a good state for the public to be walking around looking at those buildings. And the decision was made that was not good for the public, and there could have been hundreds, possibly thousands, because of the interest in this site. And Jones was decided quite clearly, and I support that decision, not to allow that to happen. But the engagement up to now has been as open as it can, and the engagement after now, if you are minded to support, should also continue because of the impact in the town. But it's up to us as an authority to make, if you're minded to support, to make this investment work for Denby. And that's a key thing. So I just see this, Chair, as a real opportunity. If we're not able to support this, this is going to take us back 10, 15 years again, because it's been a nightmare to get to where we are now. And we are lucky if we can pull off a local company, local people working in that company, creating and improving the economy. So what an opportunity, and I would urge members to support it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, there are a couple of Denby members who've got their hands up again. If we can keep this really, really brief, because we might have 2 more items that could be quite lengthy. I'll bring in Gwyneth first, and then as local member Glenn, you can come in after that. Okay, so Gwyneth first.
Yes, this is just very quick in response to Hugh. You talked about hundreds of people. No, Open Doors is very controlled, and there would only be 10 or 12 in a group. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Glenn?
So yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, based on what I've heard here and from Paul in particular, you know, and lots of this coming back to council, you know, as we progress, then obviously then I would urge you to support this, because otherwise we are, as The leader said we will set us back 15 years at least. Another thing, though, that Councillor Evans said is we can't always get what we want. Bear in mind, though, that what we get with this is always going to be there. It's not something you can go along and knock down because it's not fitted in properly. So yeah, as long as the council keep coming back and updating and getting permission to do certain things, then that's absolutely fine. So I urge you all to vote for it. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. I think I'm the one that's most affected. I drive past it every single day. Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this one. Again, this will be, if you vote for, it will be in accordance with the officer recommendation. If you voting against, you would obviously be voting against, but you would need to give us reasons for that, and we haven't had any as yet. And then obviously abstain. So Councillor Joan Butterfield.
I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Ellichard.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Councillor Alan Hughes, I think he's left. Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Obliged.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile.
He's gone, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry.
For.
Councillor Paul Penlington.
He's gone.
Right, okay, we was having technical issues. Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Councillor Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
Obliged.
Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. 15. Okay, we have 15 votes for, no votes against, and no votes to abstain. So that vote has gone through. So that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. Okay, moving on to agenda.
Yeah, could I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
Why have we left it so late today to start the planning committee?
It was at my request. Sorry, so it's all my fault.
All right. Okay.
You can blame me.
Okay.
You're forgiven, Joe. You're forgiven.
Thanks. All right. Agenda item number 7. Okay, page 143 of our reports. The ward is Prestatyn Central. The ward members are Councillors Hugh Irving and Councillor Tina Jones. The application number is 43/2021/0469/PS. The proposal is the variation of condition number 2 of Planning Permission Code number 43/2018/0900 to permit amendments to the siting of the residential apartment block and raising of the finished floor level. The location is 1 The Dell and land to the rear of The Dell Prestatyn. Okay, so this one, obviously we don't have any public speakers on this. Do officers want to come in on this one? No, okay. So the local members are Councillors Hugh Irving and Councillor Tina Jones. So Councillor Tina Jones, as a member of the committee, do you want to come in first?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. I'm not really sure why this has come to committee because obviously Hugh and I have been involved in this since its conception. But it was granted to be built in 2018, December, to be precise, so it can still go ahead. The 2 amendments are just for moving it forward by about 10 foot, 2.5 meters, which is to make a greater distance from the walkway. It's still within the recommended legal distance. It's approximately 28.5 away from the buildings, and the legal limit is 21 meters, and the raising of the finished floor level is 10 inches, which is neither here nor there, and it's I believe it's to assist in the drainage of the property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to propose anything?
Yeah, I propose we grant it, please.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
Second that.
Councillor Bob Murray, was that you? Yep.
Yep, I accept.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's come to committee if just looking at that, because although this, yeah, it's important to know this item did come to committee a couple of years ago. This is for some amendments. It's just because the town council objected to some elements of it. So that's why it's just come to committee for clarity. Councillor Hugh Irvine, I think I did see you on one of the screens before, if you'd like to come in. Might not be there. Oh, he may have left. Let me see. Oh, okay, he's left. He was in before. Okay. So we've had a proposal for and a seconder. So just to be clear, Tina, we're in favour. So we're voting in favour of officer recommendation to grant. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, that's just for clarity. I don't have any other speakers on this. So we will go to the vote on this if we are all happy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, for this one, we'll be voting for to grant in accordance with officer recommendation, or to refuse, or to abstain. They are your three options. Councillor Joan Butterfield.
I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Ellie Chard.
To grant.
Councillor Ann Davis. I can't hear you, Anne, sorry. Just give it a few seconds. Nope. Okay. Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler. Gwyneth? No, He is on. Gwyneth, can you hear us? Okay, we'll come back to Gwyneth. Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Melvin Mile. Oh, he has left, hasn't he? Sorry. Councillor Bob Merritt.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Parry.
For.
Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch. For. Cynghorydd Emrys Wyn.
O blaid.
And Councillor Mark Young.
For.
Okay. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler, are you voting on this one? We couldn't hear.
Yeah, o blaid.
Diolch. And Councillor Ann Davis. Nothing. Okay. Okay, that's okay. It's not going to impact the result either way. So let me just votes. So we have 13 votes for, no abstains and no against on that one. So therefore that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. 14. Okay, so 14 votes for. Okay, so 14 votes for. Yes, Councillor Mark Young.
Yeah, just to confirm, is 14 enough? Are we recorded?
Oh yeah, we're
right.
way for it. Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you though for mentioning that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, no, we're fully quorate.
Happy days.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9, which is on page 197 of our reports. The ward is RHYL West. The ward members are Councillors Pat Jones and Councillor Pete Prendergast. The application number is 45/2021/0040/PF, and the proposal. Even longer proposal than the North Wales Hospital, this one. A hybrid planning application, full details and outline for the redevelopment of 0.93 hectares of land known as Queen's Market, incorporating the following elements. Full details: demolition of the Bright Spot building on the corner of West Parade and High Street, demolition of 2 to 6 High Street, erection of food and market hall, erection of multi-purpose event space, erection of electrical substation, retention and refurbishment of Queen's Chambers building fronting Sussex Street, retention of existing temporary car park on Queen Street, provision of some temporary and permanent hard/soft landscaping. And the outline is for the development of Class C3 residential apartments, Class A1 retail, Class A2 financial and professional, Class A3 food and drink, Class B1 offices, Class D1 non-residential, Class D2 assembly and leisure. All detailed matters for these elements are reserved for future applications, and the location is Queen's Market, Sussex Street, RHYL. And officers are going to come in at the start for that one, so I'll bring in Paul Mead for that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, firstly, just an apology. I think we've got the local members wrong on the list. I think it should be.
Well, I was just going to raise that. You're correct.
Yeah, it's shown on as being Pat Jones and Councillor Pete Prendergast, but it isn't.
Okay.
It's Councillor Alan James and Councillor Joan Butterfield.
Okay, apologies for that.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to give a brief introduction to this item as well as I did for the Denby Hospital one. You'll be glad to hear it's not as long, but it's equally as important. So I think members just need to understand some of the facts. As with the Denby Hospital application, this is also a hybrid planning application, and this has involved extensive pre-application consultation and specialist consultee negotiation to arrive at committee today with, again, no technical objections. The scheme proposes to regenerate a 0.93 hectare site along West Parade between Queen Street, High Street and Sussex Street in RHYL. The application contains some detailed elements at this stage, which is the creation of a food and market hall, event space, and the refurbishment of the Queen's Chambers building and some parking. Outline elements for future phases are shown as a mix of commercial uses and residential apartments, and further detailed applications will need to be submitted for these elements, and any areas not developed in the early phases are shown to be landscaped. The scheme is seen as a key element to the RHYL Town Centre regeneration strategy and aims to provide a key focal point linking the town centre and the beach/promenade. The report highlights the economic and regeneration benefits of the scheme, with the redevelopment of a prominent rundown site bringing jobs and economic activity into the town. Any localised impacts can be mitigated within the required detailed applications and through the suggested conditions. So members, really just to sort of summarise that very briefly, I think officers have assessed this. There's obviously been detailed discussions with your specialist consultees in relation to things like ecology, biodiversity, flood risk, transport, etc. No technical objections, but there will obviously, as with the Denby Hospital, there'll be further applications in relation to some of the detail on this. So happy to answer any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll bring in the local members. I'll bring in the local member who's a member of Planning Committee, first of all, which is Councillor Joan Butterfield.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm going to move to the chase on this one because I don't think that there is anything at this moment in time that could be particularly contentious. But I have to say that I'm happy to move this application, both for the full planning and the outline planning. I'm quite happy to move that on this eyesore site in the centre of RHYL. I think that the regeneration of the Queen's Building will be the first regeneration programme in RHYL to benefit the whole community and the surrounding areas in Denbighshire, just for the people, to provide a service for their communities, new shopping experiences, markets, food, independent shops. And if we can get this right, it will help to diminish the deprivation in RHYL, bringing full-time, year-round jobs that will be decent jobs, giving everyone a decent living. I'm sad that we're only looking at one element of this development. I look forward to the next part being done as soon as possible, bringing more opportunities to RHYL and to the county. But I realise that I just must be patient. I think we've dealt with what's been holding the planning up with the flooding issues by the Resources Wales, and on the content with the floor levels being risen. And this has been and has apparently proved very, very challenging. But I won't say very much more now, other than to say I'm very happy to move this application today, and I hope members will have a confidence that the Queen's site will certainly deal with issues of deprivation within the RHYL town centre. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully it was quite a little bit difficult to hear that. Just it was a little crackly, but we got the general
I'm
thing.
sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's we heard that, and the main thing was obviously that you were proposing that we grant in accordance with officer recommendation. Do we have a seconder for that? I see Councillor Mark Young. There's lots of people with hands up. Sorry, it's I just saw his hand first. Okay, so that's been proposed and seconded. I'll bring in the other local member, the Chair, Councillor Alan James.
Thank you, Chair. You have to excuse me. I'm suffering a little bit at the moment with a sort of a flu-like condition. However, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I have to agree, well, I will certainly agree with Joan in every way. This is a wonderful opportunity to develop a site that has been extremely derelict for some considerable years, even though there were occupants in the properties in the market itself. It's been an eyesore for many years, and this is an exciting opportunity to develop this site. I'm sure that exactly as what Joan has said, I hope that all the members of the committee will support this and give us the opportunity to continue the development of the centre of RHYL. Certainly the conversations I've had with members of the public over the last 12 months, and particularly as the demolition has taken place. In fact, when the demolition was halted slightly because of further asbestos being found, there was some of the residents coming to us and saying, is everything okay? Why is it stopped? Why is it moving on? So there is some anxiety, or there was some anxiety around all of this. But I'm happy that it's got to this stage now and we're into the next development. So I, like Joan, can't wait for the future development and see the whole project over the coming years come to fruition. So thanks very much, everybody, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you're feeling better soon. Christine,
Thank you.
Christine's still looking at me with eyes after having to chair yesterday's meeting. She's giving you evils. She's giving you evils from here.
The only thing I can say is that my test for COVID came back negative today.
There you go.
So that's one good thing.
That's
So
definitely a good thing.
thanks for the support you've all given me. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I thought there were some hands up, but they seem to have gone down. Oh, okay. So Councillor Bob Murray.
Yep. I'd like to support this application and wish RHYL all the best because they need all the support they can get. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So if we're all happy, we will go to the vote. Okay. So as always, you'll be voting for if you want to grant planning application, if you want to grant the planning application in accordance with officer recommendation, or you can vote against or abstain. Okay. So start off with Councillor Joan Butterfield.
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ellie Chard.
For.
Councillor Ann Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Jones.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Tina Jones.
For.
Thank you. Cynghorydd Gwyneth Gensler.
Obliged.
Councillor Christine Marston.
For.
Councillor Bob Murray.
For.
Councillor Mervyn Perry.
For.
Councillor Pete Prendergast.
For.
Councillor Peter Scott.
For.
Councillor Tony Thomas.
For.
Councillor Joe Welch, 4. Cynghorydd Emrys Gwyn.
O blaid.
And Councillor Mark Young.
O.
Okay. Okay, so we have 15 votes to grant, no votes to go against, and no votes to abstain. Therefore, that application has been granted in accordance with officer recommendation. We've got one last agenda item about a tree preservation order. So again, it might seem a little confusing, so I'll probably ask officers to come in just to clarify what they're after, what we need to be making the recommendation on. But if I just look at it, it's on page 297. Okay, you can see that the subject, it's the general matters report. It's come to us because there has been an objection to a tree preservation order made by Devonshire County Council. So the purpose of the report is to inform the members of the committee that the council received an objection and the land at Kilgoyd, number 6, land at Kilgoyd, St David's Lane, Denby, made on the 23rd of June 2021. And the recommendation is that we confirm, the officer's recommendation is that we confirm that the tree preservation order is kept. The tree preservation order affords protection to a single purple-leaved Norway maple, T1, in the rear garden of the property. Okay, and you will see if you go a couple of pages in, you've obviously got, if we go to page 316, you will see where that is why it has come to us, because there is a letter of objection to the TPO. Do officers want to come in with any of the details on that? I'll just bring in Paul Griffin.
Thank you, Chair. There's not really a lot to say here. We're following due process. There was as the tree is within a conservation area, we had a request for works to that tree. We felt that the tree itself at that point was worthy of protecting, so that it didn't disappear. It made a valuable contribution to the conservation area. So having consulted with conservation officer and our tree consultant, it was decided that we should put an emergency TPO on the tree to prevent any further works to it. Following that consultation, we received one objection, which is why this is here before you. We still feel that the tree is worthy of protection, and then we seek your agreement to confirm that TPO so it's protected in perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mark Young.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful tree. I pass it most days, so I'm happy to move going with officer recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Peter Scott, thank you. Okay, do we have any other speakers on this item? Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler.
Ie, mae hwn yn fy ward i, ac wrth gwrs, dydy'r goeden ddim ar tir yr person sydd yn gwrthwynebu. Mae'r perchenog o perchnogion y tŷ a'r ardd lle mae'r goeden, maen nhw'n hapus efo'r goeden, ac felly dwi'n hapus i gefnogi hwn.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Na, Eilio, os eisiau.
Okay, I think I can't see any other hands up, so we'll go to the vote on this one as well. Okay, so for this one, if you vote for, it will be for, you will in accordance with the officer recommendation to confirm the TPO, which has been proposed and seconded. Or you can obviously vote against it, or you can abstain, okay? So Councillor Joan Butterfield?
I'm in favour, 4.
Favour, yep, 4. Councillor Ellie Chard?
4.
Councillor Ann Davis? Davis, gone. Okay, Councillor Brian Jones?
4.
Councillor Tina Jones?
4.
Cynghorydd Gwyneth Kensler?
O blaid.
Councillor Christine Marston?
4.
Councillor Bob Murray?
4.
Councillor Mervyn Parry?
4.
Councillor Peter Scott?
4.
Councillor Tony Thomas?
4.
Councillor Joe Welch? 4. Cynghorydd Emrys Gwyn?
O blaid.
And Councillor Mark Young?
4.
Just shout if I haven't called out your name, but I think everyone else is left.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So we have 13 votes in favour of confirming the TPO, no against and no abstain. Therefore, that TPO has been approved and confirmed. And that's it. There we go. 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow, thank
All
you for
blame
that.
me
Chair.
for having to work till 4:30.
I prefer 9:30 starts.
Yes,
Look at Paul's
yeah.
face now.
This was a one-off, don't worry.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Diolch yn fawr.
Miss you.